Well, here I am again, and this time it's Seasons 2. I hope that you remember the things that we talked about in our last program. And just to help you jog your memory, here are some flashbacks. So we have looked at two different genres, types of literary text, the novel and the drama or the play. This time round, we're going to take a peek at poetry and short stories. First, we'll take a look at poetry. Poems are rich in thought, feelings and experiences. Often when we read poems, we find that they become real to us because we have probably felt or experienced similar things. It's really quite similar to reading drama or fiction because we still have to make connections, inferences and draw conclusions. I guess one difference is that poems have rhythm and rhyme. Do you know that most of the songs that you hear on the radio or video clips of your favorite singers on the television are actually poems? Well, enough of talk. Let's listen to this very short song. Here it comes.
Like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in June. As fair
Beautiful, isn't it? Well, it's actually a poem written by a famous Scottish poet, Robert Burns, and it is traditionally considered to be the greatest poem about love. Okay, now take a look at what a poem would be like if it's read and dramatized. We've chosen John Keats' Ode to Autumn specially for you.
Ode to Autumn by John Keats. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspire with him how to load and bless, with fruit the vines that round the thatched eaves run, to bend with apples the moss cottage trees, fill all fruit with ripeness to the core, to swell the ground and plump the hazel shells, with a sweet kernel to set budding more, and still more later flowers for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has overbrimmed their clammy cells. Who had not seen thee oft amid thy store? Sometimes, whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind, or in a half-reaped furrow, sound asleep, drowse with the fume of poppies while thy book spares the next swath with all its twined flowers, and sometimes, like a gleaner, thou dost keep steady, thy laden head across a brook, or by a cider press with patient look, thou watchest the last oozings, hours by hours. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too, while barred clouds bloom the soft, dying day, and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. Then, in a wailful choir, the small gnats mourn among the river silence, borne aloft, or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. And full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne, hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft, the red-breast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies.
Oh, I just love poetry. Okay, and to tell us more about Ode to Autumn, we have today with us a lovely young lady, and her name is Rachel. Welcome, Rachel. What is Ode to Autumn all about?
Well, first of all, we have to understand who John Keats really is. He was born in the year 1795, and he only lived till about he was 26 years old after being diagnosed with tuberculosis. Now, during this short span of life of his, he wrote many, many great works, and he was very famous for them. And one of this would be, of course, Ode to Autumn. Now, it's believed that he wrote Ode to Autumn in September during autumn time in 1819 while he was taking a walk in Winchester. Now, you can imagine the wonderful scenery that was around him that had inspired him so to write such a wonderful piece, a tribute to Mother Nature herself. Now, as we can see, the first stanza, he talks about the scenery around him, about the trees, about the richness and the ripeness and the fullness of autumn itself. And the second stanza, he talks about the activities that are related to autumn, for example, the harvesting and the making of cider wine. In the third stanza, as he gradually moves, in fact, into the next season, that is winter, he also talks about the music that autumn has to offer. In fact, he even talks about the lambs bleating and the swallows twittering in the skies. Now, that's what's so wonderful about John Keats. He's able to he's able to let his readers, truly touch all their five senses. We are able to feel, we're able to see, we're able to hear and touch and taste, this wonderful season of autumn. Now, another thing to reflect on is that the four seasons also reflects the circle of man's life. For example, it's like in spring, we talk about the birth of man's life, and in summer, it's about man's life on the whole, and in autumn, it's about the maturity that man has reached, and in winter, man's death. And so that's what we have to reflect while reading and while listening to Ode to Autumn. And I think John Keats has done a brilliant job in doing this, in truly letting the word speak for itself and letting us hear and experience autumn as it really is.
How do you deal with the difficult and sometimes slang words that are written by the poet?
Well, I have to admit, the very first time I read Ode to Autumn, it did very much intimidate me. At the first time, I knew it was about autumn and all, but there were words that I didn't really understand. and perhaps I didn't really feel the connection with it. Now, this is probably because, in Malaysia, we don't experience the 4 seasons. So it is it's a rather difficult task to understand and to really experience the poem. Now, if there are any difficult words, I guess the best advice would be to look it up in the dictionary. Now, that would definitely help. And if you still find difficulty, of course, you can always consult an experienced literature teacher. She would definitely help you along and, helping you to understand the words and understand the flow and the meaning of it all. And then, of course, we could always just read the poem a few times and always, the next time we read it, looking at it in a different perspective, looking at it in a different way. And I feel that the more you read something, you would definitely understand it in a better light each time reading it. And of course, in this poem, there are many inner meanings, and there is a lot of need to read in between the lines. So in that sense, we really would have to perhaps do a little research, if possible, about autumn, and truly feeling and experiencing, and perhaps getting into the mood first, and then approaching the poem, and then truly enjoying it. And then I feel that perhaps then you would definitely be able to overcome all those words and be able to truly understand and experience the poem.
Thank you, Rachel. And what sort of questions could possibly be asked about Ode to Autumn? Perhaps something like this. Well, once you've read the poem, try to answer those questions. And if you have a problem or you're not too happy with the answer, try and ask your English language teacher. Get some help and advice from them. Let's see, we've looked at the novel and the play in our last program, and we have just finished looking at poetry. What is left? Let's see. Oh yeah, short stories. A short story is actually a story which is short. Short stories actually became very popular in the 19th century. Its plots were simple. Basically, the characters were mostly ordinary people in realistic settings, and it highlighted social and moral issues. I guess they were written not only for pleasure, but also to enlarge our understanding of ourselves and to deepen our appreciation of life. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is one such story. It was written by James Thurber, an American humorist, in the early part of the 20th century. Ever wonder how he looks like? Let's take a look. James Thurber's humour has its serious implication, and it's always sympathetic. Arvind, can you tell us something about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Walter Mitty is an everyday guy. He's just like you and me. And he's a man who has so many passions and so many dreams and hopes, but due to his lifestyle, everything is kept within himself. I mean, he has a wife who nags him every day, and he basically is stuck in a life where everything is so normal, everything is day to day. And so he has these fantasies where they are projections of who he wants to be. If you look closely at his fantasies, you see that he was the commander of a hydroplane, he was a famous surgeon.
Engined Navy hydroplanes looked at each other and grinned. "The old man get us through," they said to one another. "The old man ain't afraid of hell." Not so fast! You're driving too fast, said Mrs. Smitty. What are you driving so fast for? Said Walter Mitty. He looked at his wife in the seat beside him with shocked astonishment. You're up to 55, he said. You know I don't like to go more than 40. It's one of your days again. I wish you would let Dr. Renshaw you go over. You're not a young man any longer, said Mrs. Smitty, as Walter Mitty stopped the car in front of the building where his wife went to have her hair done. He drove around the streets aimlessly for a time, and then he drove past the hospital on his way to the parking lot. It's the millionaire banker, Wellington Macmillan, said the pretty nurse. Dr. Renshaw has the case. Hello, Mitty, he said. We're having the devil's own time with Macmillan, the millionaire banker, and a close personal friend of Roosevelt, obstetrician of the ductal tract, tertiary. Wish you'd take a look at him. Glad to, said Mitty. In the operating room, there were whispered introductions. Didn't know you were in the States, Mitty, grumbled Remington. Called to Newcastle. Bring me up here for tertiary. You're very kind, said Mitty. At this moment, a huge complicated machine connected to the operating table went pokata, pokata. The new anesthetizer is giving away, shouted an intern. There is no one in the East who knows how to fix it. Quiet, man, said Mitty, in a low, cool voice. He sprang to the machine that was now going pokata, pokata, queep, queep, and began fingering delicately a row of glistening dials. Give me a fountain pen, he snapped. Someone handed him a fountain pen. He pulled out a faulty piston out of the machine and inserted the pen in its place. That will hold for 10 minutes, he said. Get on with the operation. Collapses has set in, said Renshaw nervously. If you would take over, Mitty. If you wish, he said. They slipped a white gown on him. Nurses handed him a shining... Back it up, Mac, back it up! Walter Mitty jammed on his brakes. Wrong lane, Mac, said the parking lot attendant. Mitty began cautiously to back out of the lane. Okay, said the parking lot attendant. I'll put her away. They're so damn cocky, thought Mitty. They think they know everything. While walking along Main Street, he began to wonder what it was that his wife had had him to buy. Kleenex, he thought, squibs, razor blades. He gave it up. A newspaper boy went by shouting something about the Waterbury trial. Perhaps this will refresh your memory? The district attorney suddenly thrust a heavy automatic at the quiet figure on the witness stand. Walter Mitty took the gun. This is my Webley Vickers 50.80, he said calmly. You are a crack shot with any sort of firearms, I believe, said the district attorney insinuatingly. Objection, shouted Mitty's attorney. We have shown that the defendant could not have fired that shot. We have shown that he wore his right arm in a sling at the night of the 14th of July. Walter Mitty raised his hand briefly, and the bickering of the attorneys was stilled. With any known make of gun, he said evenly, I could have killed Gregory Fitzgerald at 300 feet with my left hand. Pandemonium broke loose in the courtroom. A woman's scream rose above the bedlamp, and suddenly a lovely dark-haired girl was in Walter Mitty's arms. The district attorney struck at her savagely. Without rising from his chair, Mitty let him have it on the point of the chin. You miserable cur! Puppy biscuit, said Walter Mitty. He stopped walking. The buildings of the Waterbury rose up to the misty courtroom and surrounded him again. He hurried into the A&P. I want some biscuits for small young dogs, he said to the clerk. His wife didn't like to be kept waiting, he thought, as he sank into a big chair in the lobby of the hotel. Suddenly, something struck on his shoulders. I have been looking all over this hotel for you, said Mrs. Mitty. Why did you hide in this old chair? Anyway, did you get the puppy biscuit? I do think sometimes you know, said Walter Mitty. She looked at him. I am going to take your temperature when we get home, she said. They went out. At the drugstore on the corner, she said, Now, you wait here for me. I forgot something. I won't be a minute. She was more than a minute. Walter Mitty lighted a cigarette. He stood up against the wall of the drugstore, smoking. He squared at his shoulder and clicked his heels together. To hell with the handkerchief, he said scornfully. He took one last drag on his cigarette and snapped it away. Then, with that faint, fleeting smile, he faced the firing squad, erect and motionless, proud and disdainful.
Wow, what a dreamer! He's something like our Malaysian Mat Jenin, only bigger. Okay, what sort of questions can students of literature expect in their examination? Arvind, do you want to help us out again?
One common question that you can get on The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is what sort of relationship exists between Walter Mitty and his wife. Walter Mitty is a man who has been married to his wife for a long time, and he does love her, but it's just that he's grown so used to her that, you know, she nags him, she pesters him, and he just lets it go through one year and out through the other, you know. And you can see that she can tell him what she likes, but he's just wrapped up in his own world. And deep down inside, he does love her, but it just doesn't show. He just doesn't show it because he's so caught up in his own fantasies and what he wants to be, and the things that she doesn't give him a chance to be. Another frequently asked question is, within a short span of time, while waiting for his wife, Walter Mitty goes through the 5 different roles. So what does this tell us about his mental state and his secret life? For the part on his mental state, the fantasies and the different roles that he goes through is actually a very good look at the state of mind that he's in. He's a man who has to go through a normal life like everybody. He has a job, he has a wife, he has a house to go back to, and these fantasies help him sort of believe that there's something more to all this, that there's just a lot of things that are more to this boring, same routine that I go through, and that's the mental state that all the fantasies reflect. As for his secret life, they are again ways for him to get out of the humdrum and routine of his life, and he wants to be in control. Control is something that he doesn't have, you know, having a domineering wife, you know, and having a routine everyday life. So the secret life is a projection of the fantasies that he would like to be. He would like to be a surgeon, he would like to be that soldier who defies the firing squad. Those are the things that he would like to be, those are the qualities he would like to possess. So these are the answers you can give for this frequently asked question.
Well, we've covered all the 4 genres of literature: the play, the novel, the poem, and the short story. I hope that you have found some help in your study of literature. So please read as much as you can. Go to your school library, get some books on literature in English. Run to the nearest bookshop, buy some books on literature in English. If you're an online person, use the internet, get some materials on literature in English. Bye, and may the force of literature be with you.